So today I'm going to show you the 6 ways to build a security kill chain to combat next generation threats. This is a series of videos that I'm releasing over the next couple days that are going to give you options on the best way that's most appropriate for you to go at it with building a security kill chain. As I mentioned, my name is Bill Murphy. I own, run, and operate for over 20 years Red Zone Technologies, which has built and continues to build next generation threat tooling, security programs for CIOs and CISOs. So with that, let's get into one of the first ways, one of the classic ways of building a security kill chain is by a classic assessment. And why do I have a fire next to the threading binder? Well, that's because sometimes we get ourselves into hot water, and it could be you've just taken on a new job and you really don't know what's going on within the program sets, within the environment. So you got to dig your way out. And I would classify that as a fire. And then I would also classify if you have an application development team that might be building, either a third party's building it or your internal team, and they're building the app, but aren't in AWS or Azure, but you're not necessarily quite sure that they've got the security chops at the same time as the app dev chops. So you got to go figure that out. And a classic assessment is always great in that regard. Another is, I call this security by design. It's actually when you're in a position where you really want to design security into your environment, and you really want to look at it from a strategy and a risk point of view. And you also potentially have to communicate with CFO, CEO, and even the board. So there's different ways to go at that. And a security by design process, this particular map that I'm showing you has been used many times at that level, and it's amazingly successful. It's one of my favorite inventions from about 7 years ago. The next is when you want to get super tactical. So as I talk about the 6 ways to build a security kill chain, if you're knee deep in tactics and tools, that's fine. This is a way to do that, to tackle a security kill chain, is by, for example, lasering in on endpoint security and looking at the stack combinations and what they're actually doing. So looking at the tooling that you have and looking at, okay, where have I got identity access control? Where have I got blocking protection? Where am I doing malware, account takeover, and email compromise, as a way of looking at what's the stack combination at that endpoint. Another is, one of my favorites is this kill chain matrix. And so as you look at the kill chain matrix is a way of distilling, and I look at it, it's a collaborative, facilitated, guided approach where, unlike an assessment, some assessments where you literally dive into the network and the third party, the consultant dives into the network and rips a bunch of data, that the kill chain is really the opposite. It's meant to be, it's a self-assessment with guidance. And the guidance is from a third party. And so it's really meant to look at high, medium, and low risk. And then what are you doing relative to that high, medium, low risk? How does the tooling, the security tooling, and the approaches you're taking to mitigate that risk really stacking up? And you can see 0, 1, 2, and 3. And you're one of those. And you can see pretty quickly, okay, high risk, where does my tooling fall into place? And then what is the actual tool set, and then what to do about it. So unlike PCI and HIPAA and CIS controls and others that just really, you're checking the boxes, a kill chain matrix really is, okay, what do I do about it after I've self-ranked and self-assessed? What do I actually do to take action to make sure that I'm making the most appropriate action in the highest risk categories first? And then direct action kill chain. This is, if you're of the if you're of the inkling that you absolutely know what you're trying to solve for. If you know what you're trying to solve for, then it just becomes, okay, where do I take direct action and apply, I would call an Occam's razor, or apply a Pareto principle to it? What's the 20% investment that gets you 80% of the value, and then gets you 80% of the value, not only from the direct action, the direct blocking capabilities within this cloud, hybrid cloud, on-prem world, sort of this multifaceted world that I'm going to be talking about over the next couple of days relative to this picture. But then how do I take action on this? What's the most directed approach to take? And finally, as you look at assessments, assessments denote a noun. I've done the assessment. I've done the matrix. I've done this. I've done that. Well, I believe, and I believe we're at a time right now where we got to talk about always on assessing, always on review of your kill chain. And that's going to be the final category we're going to cover is the always on progressive way in which you can have your team linked up to another team, and then just you're constantly reviewing and assessing and using tooling, using people, using process, using techniques. How do you do that? And so I'm going to take you through this video series and get you caught up on this so that you can see what is appropriate for you and you have a thought pattern and of how to approach this.